Yearning to play a few rounds of Gwent. That ought to set me straight.
Welcome to Commander's Horn, episode 74. Today I am joined by two Gwent community superstars and sorceresses, Ammers and Thrilling. We're going to talk about some new developments with Gwent Challenger, the ongoing Mahakam season, as well as some community projects they both have their hands on. All this and more on this episode of Commander's Horn. Welcome back to Commander's Horn, a weekly Gwent podcast. I am Dane, McBeard, and I am joined today by two mighty sorceresses of the Lodge, Ammers and Thrilling. Welcome to the podcast, my friends.
Thank you. Hello.
Hello, hello. Ammers, hello.
Hi, I'm glad to be here.
All right. Glad to have you as well. It's International Women's Week, I guess you can say. I mean, the day has been... It's been celebrated. It's celebrated this week, so you could say it's this week. So it's good to have the sorceresses on the show to talk about perhaps the female presence in Gwent and Ammers and Thrilling, how you have been involved in projects involving that and other projects as well. You both are very involved in the Gwent community. So that's great that you can join us. And I also think this is the fewest beards we've had on the podcast since the True Dawn and Delta episode. So my beard is like extra long to make up for that, I think. I think this might have to go down. But Ammers, we'll start with you. Who are you and what Gwent projects have you been involved with?
So my name's Angie. I founded the Lodge of Sorceresses only last month. I sort of came out of nowhere, I guess. I had it on my mind for a while that I wanted to do a community like this, or to form one, see if there's any interest in one. Mm-hmm. And I knew the Wild Hunt was coming up, and I thought that would be a really good time to do it since I'm within driving distance and I could meet some personalities and get involved there. So that's kind of how it started.
Yeah, the Wild Hunt tournament you're talking about, of course, the North American Philadelphia LAN that occurred on a couple weekends ago, I guess at this point. Feels like not long ago, but also feels like a lifetime ago. And I'm
sure it was longer for you guys.
I mean, it was a long trip. Just looking forward to the next one, perhaps. So that's good. Being able to be involved and actually be in driving distance of an event like that. And Thrilling, you've also been involved in Wild Hunt and some other things as well. Where might people know you, even if it's behind the scenes?
I am a Gwent player. Let's see. I occasionally stream Gwent, so you might know me from there, but I'm a proud member of the Commander's Horn team, as well as an admin for Wild Hunt. So that was really fun. And yeah.
Yeah, and this is actually...
The team did really good.
I thought the team did.
Thank you. Thank you.
I thought the team did exceptionally well, considering what was actually, when it finally came down to, it's like 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and we're realizing that we're only halfway done. I think the demand started to be felt at that
I didn't get there until like afternoon, around 1.
Oh, really? That's
weird. It barely started.
I distinctly remember talking to you before it started, but I guess I remembered it incorrectly.
No, we showed up during second round Swiss, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so I mean, we're here on the podcast. We're obviously going to be talking about some of the projects that we're involved in, but this is the podcast, so there is going to be a little bit of news, just a bit of news. I guess this is there was a pretty big announcement from the Gwent team. We'll get into that, but first I want to tell you that this episode of Commander's Horn is recorded live in advance on Sunday because travel days for me get to be pretty tight, so there's not going to be a Tuesday podcast. This is the podcast, which you are listening to on the feed, and you can find all episodes of Commander's Horn at commandershorn.com. You can subscribe on iTunes, pick up the feed on Stitcher and other podcasting apps, send your emails to commandershorn@gmail.com, or tweet at us at commandershorn. This fake ad is so low-hanging fruit. This week's show is brought to you by our sponsor, Shawnee's Family Health Team. She's a medic. She tends to know what she's doing when she prescribes something. Week 1. I'll come up with a funnier one next week. But the real reason I say that is to actually tell you that this episode is actually brought to us by our commandos, our patrons at patreon.com/commandershorn. Thanks for keeping the mics on and the podcast ad-free.
Commando!
So we're going to talk about some news, and we're going to talk about the new Challenger stuff that we know about. We're going to talk about some developments in the Gwent community, and we'll talk to both of you about your involvement in the Gwent community right after this break. So we did get a little piece of news about Gwent Challenger. We know that the Gwent Challenger is going to be hosted in a very famous salt mine. Can I get some hot takes on what that might sound like out of context, that they're going to hold a tournament in a salt mine? Go.
Tournament will be on Reddit.
Yeah,
Right.
For sure.
I'd actually like to point out that salt is very healing, so the air in a salt mine must be like crazy healthy. So for anyone going, that it seems like it kind of might be like a spa trip a little bit.
Wouldn't that be
I don't
kind of
know.
dry though? Like, doesn't salt dry you out?
Sort of. There is like actually specialized salt therapy. This is like totally a random tangent, by the way.
That's
but I'm
fine.
just saying, you might get a little healthy by breathing the salty air. So maybe it's like kind of an oxymoron.
Well, I mean, Twitch streamers are known
That's really interesting.
for their health, like their good health that they stay in. So that's probably because
Oh
of the
yes.
Yeah, you can't have
nonstop
enough
salt
salt in
supply.
this community.
They're also known for their salt, I guess, depending on the streamer, but
Natural salt, natural occurring salt in nature. Twitch
Precisely.
and apparently in the, I'm going to butcher this to the European viewers, but apparently in the Wilicka salt mine in Poland. So this is a very famous salt mine that has it's actually a hotel or a meeting area. Apparently there's a boxing ring there. There's like
What?
large
That's
chandelier
crazy.
and
That's
like a
so
huge
cool.
grand hall. Like it's an event space that I guess the only question that I need answered is it still a functional salt mine, or is it just a very famous salt mine? Because there is Katowice, where we had Gwent Challenger #1. That's a mining town, I believe, or a mining city. And I know that there are cities like this dotted around Poland. So I'm not sure how close it is to Katowice, and I'm not really sure. I need to do a little bit of my own research on it. But it's definitely a great thematic piece for a Scoia'tael-themed challenger in the mines, in the Mahaka mines, perhaps?
yeah, exactly.
Mines of Moria.
The mines of Moria?
It's also beautiful. I looked at pictures and I'm like, wow,
Yeah.
I'm so jealous. I can't
Yeah,
go to that.
It's really cool. I'm going to put the news release in the show notes, and there's a link you can follow that'll give you'll see the news release, and the teaser trailer is there. You see Berja dressed up like Pavko going down a mine cart. Like they were there recently to shoot these promos, so it's going to be so good. And it's not going to disappoint, I don't think, because the last Challenger held in Majna Castle was a huge event. So I imagine that you can expect some similar stuff with a Scoia'tael theme. Thrilling, you're a Scoia'tael fan, so I'm sure you're gonna like some of the stuff that they put together. There.
Yeah. If it's anywhere close to as enjoyable as last Challenger was, it'll be pretty great to watch.
I was impressed with the production values of the last Challenger, so I can't wait to see what they do this time. They can top themselves.
It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun to do that. And it's fun to travel to these cool events. And at first, when I heard about the salt mine, I thought maybe it's a cave for the Monsters Challenger. Maybe that's what they're going to do. They wanted to find like a dark place that would be cave-like, that cater to monsters, but still be like a fun place for a venue where people could sleep. Because, when I thought about Scoia'tael, I thought maybe a forest. And when I thought about monsters, I was maybe dreading the venue because they would have to be like a gross place where we wouldn't
A
want to
bat
be
cave.
there. Yeah, a bat cave, perhaps.
I think. Do you think the salt mine, this rank season was the Mahakam season? So maybe they're doing each
Yeah.
challenger based off of the. I mean, I guess they can't do one challenger a month, but you know what I'm saying.
to correspond with the dwarven theme.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, they
Like
might
that.
be starting to do that. They the previous Challenger wasn't held in a Nilfgaard themed border season or anything. What was that? That was actually the
Was it?
Monsters border season. So it was the one with the Eridan borders, I believe. So,
Oh, you're right.
but it could be a happy accident, or they could be dropping hints as to what future Challengers will be. I mean, will the Skellige one be on a giant ship? Right? Will
That would be so cool.
I mean, the Northern Realms one is probably going to be like you could do that. You could do that in a in a bustling market square, or I don't know how you can rent out something like that, or another castle perhaps. But the monsters one, that's going to take some brain racking, I think, for me. What could you possibly do?
Oof, I don't know.
It's tough to think about. I know it's
Yeah, I'm thinking. I feel like a cave could be really cool, like a cavern maybe with a bunch of like stalagmites and stalactites.
Maybe like the Great Mammoth Cave that we have in like what is it, Kentucky?
hmm.
It's very well lit. Something like that, but in Europe.
Yeah.
Dante in the chat saying monsters should be held in a held in the North Pole because the Wild Hunt rules. Yeah, talking about a merchant moving to the salt mine permanently. Good stuff.
Yeah, Timbo, I was going to say swamp. It could be a swamp, but I feel like that might be a little hard to get a bunch of electronics out to a swamp? Question
Little bit.
mark.
I'm sure there's a renovated swamp out there that they've turned into a hotel. Don't they renovate? Can't they renovate anything and turn it into a hotel?
I
Yeah.
guess so.
Hotel on the swamp. Make it happen.
Sounds dreamy.
Speaking of salt, and only some people might get this, and normally I would never talk about something like this on the podcast because this is we're talking about sponsored content. We're talking about an advertisement. So this is not normal news stuff. But Kriparian is streaming Gwent right now, and it's notable because he has a large audience that he pulls in for Hearthstone every day. Like we're talking about like on expansion days, he can get like 40,000-50,000. Like I've seen it. I don't know if I'm exaggerating, but I know I've seen tens of thousands of people on his channel before. I used to watch his channel a lot back in the day when he was just starting to stream Hearthstone, and he has this weird time slot of 11 p.m. to 4 a.m. Eastern time, and it still grabs 5 digits all the time. And I think about 10,000 plus people still tune into Gwent when he streams. It is an ad, it is sponsored content, but it is going to be offering a good amount of exposure to Gwent, especially through his point of view, like the lens of somebody in that level of popularity, experimenting and experiencing the game for the first time, really kind of reminds people that when we're on Reddit, we're coming from like a place of deep experience and like lots of hours, whereas someone like Crip would be brand new to the game. And when you think of like Vadi Vidya's Game of the Year video that he did for Gwent, he had such a fresh and positive outlook on the game. Somebody who appreciates very good game design, and said it was his Game of the Year. Actually, in the heart of the Midwinter update as well, he said this. So. Generally, though, ladies, I'm curious. Do you think that sponsored content like this is a good thing? Because it is ads. People do not like to be advertised to in general. There's always a stigma around advertising. But Crip's a pretty big personality. Generally, what do you think off the top of your head about this?
I think that they should have been doing more advertising like this sooner, to be honest, because this was after the Midwinter patch and all the bugs that they still haven't gotten out of the game, this might have been the worst time in the history of Gwent to finally have advertisers and to finally have sponsored streamers taking a look at it, because just watching him go through like the outdated tutorials and learning the mechanics off of cards that still haven't been updated with accurate text was I'd prefer to see it fixed sooner and then get some more sponsors in or some more sponsored content on it.
I'm going to have to go ahead and agree with that. I think generally sponsored content could be a good thing, especially with Gwent. It doesn't have a huge player base comparatively to the other card games out there. And with Artifact coming out soon, I understand why they want to increase their player base, maybe increase their reach, get some new people in hooked on the game. But I think that maybe there's some things that they need to focus on before they start pushing it to a very large and wide audience. Yeah, those are.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree. And I wasn't sure like if the tutorials and the challenges just seemed like Like just because I can't approach it. I can't approach these things as a new player. So I don't know if they're as bad as they seem, but they may be. I mean, the tutorial especially it's a weird one because none of the cards do what they normally do, and it's kind of a weird. I know it's supposed to be like kind of a step-by-step introduction, and I haven't played it in a while, but I have a feeling that it hasn't been updated very much.
Have they changed actually the tutorial since, I guess, the release of the Midwinter update? Because I remember I've been playing since day one of closed beta. So when I played the tutorial, it was a very, very long time ago. So
I don't believe it has.
have they changed it at all?
I mean, there are things that they've added to it, I think, and I know that they added premium cards to it. In fact, the tutorial was one of the only places you could see some of the premium art before it was added. It was weird. Like Vran Warrior and Ericus, the little drones, they were premium in the tutorial before they were actually available in game. But I think that they actually added that art in, and I think that that still teaches you about playing cards, passing. Mulligan is like the last thing you learn, but the cards just kind of do what they did like way back at the beginning of closed beta, I think, if even that much.
Going back to Kriparin, like I do come from a Hearthstone background. The few people who follow me from when I streamed my Climb to Legend in Hearthstone like a year and a half ago. And then as soon as I switched to Gwent, I couldn't play Hearthstone anymore because the rewards are just so much better and it's so much more skill based, and I love it. That's off topic though. Point is, I'm really familiar with a lot of those streamers, and so Crip is a really big deal, and I'm really disappointed that he had such a weird time slot.
Yeah, I can't watch it all because that's like I'm asleep.
And I heard Amaz is another huge Hearthstone personality. I heard that he reached out to them about doing a sponsored stream as well, so that would be really nice because Amaz is hilarious.
Yeah, Amaz has been doing it for just as long. I remember Amaz. He won a DreamHack. He was known for being like the only person who ever played Priest back in the day, and he formed. Didn't he form Team Archon? That was Amaz, right? Who did that? Yeah. Well,
so.
the now defunct Team Archon, but still, like, has had his fingerprints on esports basically. So, these big personalities, and I also agree, Ammers, when you said that maybe this is it's possibly, you said too late. I don't think it's too late, but I do know that
not too late.
I think
it's
Trump,
necessary.
Yeah, it is, and advertising has been on. It's different by region, of course. Like different people get different advertisements. So this is like very much a global thing.
I would have wanted them to do it before the midwinter patch.
Right. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
Trump did his stuff before Challenger #1, and Life Coach did it as well. But I think that he ended up. I'm not really sure if it was sponsored content. It never seemed like it was, and he actually ended up playing the game for quite some time afterward, unlike Trump, who didn't. But I think CD Projekt's Red stance has been trying to avoid bot, like kind of like a buying a streamer's time. But the thing about Kriparian is that he has a huge audience, and he doesn't step away from Hearthstone for anything, I don't think. So, but it's very, very clear. He's got the hashtag ad in there. So I guess the honest question to him, if he enjoyed the game, is kind of like something that I'd like to ask him. And I may reach out to him in the future just to know, how he felt about the game, if it was just another gig for him or
you should
what.
see if you can get him on here.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe if more stories develop around it, sure. But I mean, it's sponsored content, so this part of it feels like it's not like a genuine story, which is why it's a weird thing to talk about. But had to talk about it, I think, just because of the stage that it's put on.
In terms of marketing for CDPR, I really want them to step it up as soon as possible because with, MTG Arena and Artifact coming out towards the end of this year, this game is so good. I really want to see it. It deserves way more players than it has currently. And I wish they would just hammer away at that and just really get some advertising campaigns out there. Anyway.
Well, yeah, I mean, there is something that we do know coming up this year is that the game is expected to launch formally this year. So
no way.
That is, well, I mean, that's what we are hoping, I guess. So I know that for the grand launch, when Arena is now in, they're expecting to have another bunch of cards coming. They're expecting to have the Thronebreaker campaign coming. So I think those are like the final pieces. So like 2 major pieces are left before what I would imagine would be a launch. Unless something else changes, that will be the biggest point to have a boom of interest in the game. And from then on, just keep everything together, keep everybody happy, learn from past mistakes. I think this game has a very bright future still to this day. As you
I
know,
agree.
I'm a super optimist. You know, I'm a big hippie. I want everybody to get along, and I want everything to go well, and everybody to have a good time. So, but I do think that, you know, once the launch occurs, there's a lot of stuff that's that we haven't seen yet that's going to be very exciting for the game. So, launch day, we're looking forward to that.
When do you think that'll be?
I don't know. Like there's for me, like I look at the calendar like when the next event is for esports because I travel and I do this stuff. So I think, okay, well they probably want to launch like right around a huge event, and maybe they have a big announcement for the Salt Mine Challenger. Maybe they have a big announcement for the Challenger that follows that. Now that they're going to be starting to happen more frequently, it's going to go open, and then there's going to be a break month, open, and then the Challenger, and then the next season, an open right after that. And then I think June is off, and then July, and then like if I'm just going by how it's been going. So it's possible August, maybe, but I don't know. That's just me honestly speculating based on the event calendar.
I hope that they give us a refer a friend system before it goes into open. That way people can start inviting their friends for the launch, and maybe like do something like just an avatar reward for both people if you invite a friend.
Mm-hmm.
Like to see something like that.
Okay.
It's simple, but it works.
For sure. There's a question actually in the chat for you, Ammers. Can you ask Ammers how she feels about Gwent's marketing potential and how you could transfer over from Hearthstone? Personally, you prefer the game because it's more appealing, but you seem knowledgeable about the potential persuasion of Gwent. I mean, this is kind of bleeding into like the general questions I have for you. I guess we could actually just move right into the the section where we actually get to talk to you two and about kind of your experiences with Gwent and what Gwent means to you. So I think that this is a good time to do that. So right after this short break, we'll talk to Ammers and Thrilling about Gwent and the stuff that they do with the Gwent community. Stay tuned. So, Thrilling, I'm not sure about you and your prior experience to card games, but Ammers, I do know that you've played card games in the past. You told me as such. We have very similar background. You played Magic when you were younger. You played Hearthstone before Gwent, and now Gwent has sucked you in and stolen your heart. So, but the question that came in from the chat was about how someone maybe might be able to easily transfer from Hearthstone to Gwent. And yeah, how do you feel about that? And how did you get involved with Gwent?
Switching from Hearthstone to Gwent it's so hard to describe Gwent to people who haven't played it because it's not really like any other card games out there. Like with the row system, and there's no mana, and that's like a really common thing in a lot of card games. So I have a hard time explaining it to friends who like are coming from playing Magic or playing Hearthstone. I usually just kind of say, okay, well, what's your style in Magic? Are you a red player? Are you a green player? Like, what are you into? And then I say, okay, you might like this sort of thing. How does this sound to you? And I'll describe like an archetype. And it really helps if they play The Witcher, because Witcher is, of course, awesome. I played Witcher 3 extensively, and that's where I first saw Gwent in there. In fact, it was my boyfriend who talked me into playing Witcher 3 finally. I had it sitting on my computer for ages and finally got around to playing it, and I thought, wow, why didn't I play this sooner? And the game in there was fun, and then I saw some ads for closed beta for Gwent, and I was like, someone give me a code, please. So I got a code, and then I started playing with it, and it's just so different. You just got to jump into it, and if you like the realistic style, if you're not a fan of the RNG in Hearthstone, people like to complain about the RNG in Gwent right now, but it's really, really not that bad at all. Coming from Hearthstone, it's totally manageable, and I don't think it impacts the game as much as people think that it does in like the long term. Sorry, I think I digressed there.
No, it's fine. I mean, it was similar to me where it was just like, for me, it was an alternative because, Hearthstone's expensive to keep up with. And I was, as soon as they announced it, I was just like, this is it. This is how I want to spend like the future of card games. Because I loved The Witcher 3, and loving the Witcher series really adds to that extra layer of enjoyment. With every new release of cards, with every new take on lore, like the anticipation of single player. Thrilling, you're nodding in agreement. You've played The Witcher as well.
Yeah, and I actually never played any card games before Gwent. So when you're talking about Magic and Hearthstone, I mean, I know what they are, but likely I'll have absolutely no clue what you're talking about. Like when I came into Gwent, I had to learn all of like the card game terms, like CA, card advantage, or BM, bad manners. Like I didn't know what any of that meant. Yeah, so roping. I was like, what's roping? Like what is all of this?
Yeah.
So yeah, I love The Witcher, and definitely having that anticipation of knowing what else is in the game and what you can't wait to see added to Gwent really makes it exciting for me as a lore enthusiast as well.
Yeah. And like the art leaks that we've seen, it's like, oh, I know that character. I know what that's going to be.
Yeah, you're like, who
what
is this?
ability is it going to have? Yeah, I love that stuff.
And the art just blows
And the art
other
is
games
just-
out of the water. Complete no contest.
Yeah, and that's
I don't
one thing
think
that
anyone's ever complained about the art of Gwent.
exactly what I was going to say. It's like the one thing that you can get every single person that's ever made a Reddit account and is posted on the Gwent Reddit in a room together, and the one thing that they'll all agree on probably is that the art is great. It's beyond
Yeah.
compare.
So good.
Beyond compare. I've never seen a bad thing said about Gwent art. With the exception of maybe swapping art, like Yennefer Conjurer isn't conjuring anything, and Yennefer is conjuring a unicorn or something like that.
And
That's
where are my premiums?
and where and where are the
Yeah.
premiums?
Placeholder things that have been here for months. Bring me
My
my
half-elf hunter premium.
Yeah, what? You annoy me.
Eh? Yeah, exactly. I need that.
That's one I want to see. I want to see Osrel's. I want to see the runestones. I know that I'm sure they're just going to be
Yeah.
basic gleaming
Yeah.
runestones, but I still
Glittery.
I want to see them like all lined up together in the collection. Yeah, I mean, and there's what's another one that's like, oh, the damned sorceresses and the tormented mages. They're gonna look
yeah.
so good. They're gonna look
Dopplers
so
need
good.
one. I feel like
Doppler?
it's gonna be cool.
I want to see Sabrina. What's her name? The cursed
Lesevich?
Sabrina
Sabrina Spectre, yeah.
Spectre.
Oh yeah.
That one looks really cool.
Oh, Moonlight CDPR in the chat saying we'd be surprised. We'd be surprised.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I love being surprised, Moonlight. Thanks for stopping by in the chat. All right, so that was kind of a that was good. It was a nice organic conversation. That's what we want. But there is some stuff that I wanted to talk to you guys about, and that's about Gwent community, because you're both involved in community. And I want to start with Ammers here. I'll just set the stage for you. Can you just tell us about the Lodge of Sorceresses and what it is, how you got it started, and yeah, go for it. Let us know.
Yeah, so the Lodge of Sorceresses is first a Discord community. It's woman-focused and LGBTQ-friendly. We'll get into why those things are important later, because that is a question that comes up. The things that my Discord does differently is we have a really heavy emphasis on voice chat. We have a voice chat culture on our server. I've noticed on other card game servers, people tend not to chat so much, but in ours, you'll tune in around like, I don't know, afternoon after work for NA or earlier than that for EU. And there's just like, there'll be like 15 people in voice chat. And lately they've been playing like Cards Against Humanity and Scribble and stuff. Because who plays Gwent, right? But they play and they ask each other questions. And then another strength of the server is we have a strong focus on one, being positive, and two, learning. We have a community-run free kind of tutoring program. So rather than coming in and just asking questions, which you can totally do, you can actually come in and post in a particular channel for it and be like, hey, I'm really interested in improving my rank from 10 to 20. I hear the decks that I like to play. Is anyone a specialist in these? Can you help me out? And then you'll hook up with that person and work with them consistently on whatever schedule that you guys work out for each other. And we've had a lot of success with it. In fact, I've gotten really good. I have some here, comments about my mentors. I shouldn't use the possessive. They're all like my babies.
Own it.
I'm like the server mom. Like my mods, my mentors. It's like one who worked with Jametti, who runs the Spanish Gwent Discord, actually, said he was a wonderful mentor and he had good analytical skills, and he patiently explained the various decision making. Despite me making lots of mistakes, I would recommend him to other mentees. And then someone else posted the other day who was pretty new. She says, I know I've been throwing a bunch of questions in here the last couple of days, but you guys, I just listened to all of your advice, feedback, and suggestions, and it's helped me so much. I just came out of a 10-game winning streak. That's a personal best. So we've had some success stories, and it's been going really well, even though we've only been open for, a month, or less than a month.
Yeah,
we have almost 350 members in less than a month, and I've only been doing private invites. I almost do them. all of them come mostly personally through me because I want to keep out the trolls. Who doesn't?
I mean, it's true, and I have found just as a streamer that, based on the atmosphere that you keep on your communities and like, if you're a streamer, like your general personality, you just over time will cultivate the community that you want. And I think that just that little extra effort, not just kind of opening the doors and just saying, come on in, and you get to kind of groom the base. And you had a foundation, it was invite only, and then it opened up a little bit. So, but I think that it's a very active community. I can barely keep up with it. I got started with Discord when Gwent first came out. So the first Discord I ever joined was the Gwent public Discord, and since then I've joined like 10 other Gwent based Discords. But I didn't think it was going to explode like the way it did. I didn't think that there was going to be multiple Gwent Discords. I didn't think Discord would be as huge as it was. Why do you think Discord is such a good... this question's for both of you. I'm going to ask Thrilling first, but why do you think Discord is such a good platform for community building? Like, what was missing before Discord stepped in?
I've been around since, like, I started using Discord probably about 3 years ago, and I think it goes really, really well with Twitch. I kind of started using it to keep up with certain streamers that I watched before I started streaming myself, outside of their stream, and I think that's what they used it for. And I think Discord is probably one of the most powerful community building tools out there, because it's a way to constantly be involved and constantly be interacting with a community, really no matter where you are. You can do it from your phone, I don't know, a friend's house, but you can always kind of be connected and have like your finger on the pulse of everything. And I think that's why Discord has really exploded, because you can really do anything with it. So many tools, and it's just a really, really great platform to bring people together, outside of, say, like Twitch or another streaming service, or wherever, Reddit maybe. Yeah, so it's very community focused.
Yeah, it promotes discussion and everything, right? Like
yes.
I like the voice chat, and the cool thing about Lodge of Sorceresses is that the voice chat is always active. Like, I am intimidated to go into voice chats, and I haven't been on the Lodge of Sorceresses voice chat yet. But sometimes I just like, it's such a commitment just to stop in. It's like, no, I need to be there. Like,
you don't even have to say anything.
Yeah,
you can just
lurk
come in and listen and chill.
Yeah. Well, maybe I will. But so Ammers, like, what inspired you to take this on? It's not a small thing. Like, you've been promoting it heavily.
Well, I'll get to that. I actually wanted to answer the previous question also.
Sure,
I think, the multimedia aspect of Discord is what really ties it all together, because it does the job of, having come from playing online games for like, the last dozen years or so, I've gone through Vent and then TeamSpeak and then Mumble, so it does the job of all of those, plus Skype, plus it ties in Twitch, and then you can also do personal calls, and then you can upload media, and it also does the job of a text forum at the same time. So it like ties all of that together, and that's why you said it's the best community building tools, because it does everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Ottoman King in the chat saying, gotta be honest, if it wasn't for this Discord, or if it wasn't for Discord, I guess he's saying in more of a general sense, the community overall and the friends that I've made, I probably would have stopped playing Gwent. So it's interesting, because I don't think this is a comment too much on Gwent. I think it's a comment about how much better a game is when there's a good community built around it, because even if a game is great, it can always be enhanced by a good community. And even when a game is big and very popular, sometimes the negative stuff that can be said about a game is the community aspect of it, which has nothing to do with the game itself anyway. So the community that is built around every game is important, and I think that anybody who wants to build a community where people can really enjoy the game more, that's the good work that we need people to do. So thanks, Ammers, for putting the Lodge of Sorcerers together. And
it would be nothing without the support, though.
Well, I mean, that's the idea. Like, that's, everybody supports everybody. It's the world we want to live in, right? If you don't want Gwent to be, a hotbed of discussion X, you could say all sorts of different things. So I'm not going to like single anything out. But if you like just are tired of hearing that, you just want to play Gwent, you just want to like talk to people who want to play Gwent or whatever. I mean, you can kind of cultivate that community yourself. And I think that this is a really good large scale turnout. It is big, and it grew very fast, and I think that's really good.
It did. I was really surprised. There were two other things that I actually wanted to mention about what the server does is it's very personal. People feel like they can talk about themselves, and like we even have a channel where people just post pictures of their pets all the time. So it's our petting zoo channel, right? And people, they feel like it's a much more personal experience on a Discord server than you might find in other places. Um, and then we also have some more structured events that we just started, that we just put into place last week. So like every other Saturday, we're doing a whole server voice chat social. And the first one, we had like 30 people come out for it out of a server about 300. So that was about a 10% turnout, not bad at all. And it took us like an hour and a half just to get through introductions. And then people like started chatting and then broke off into like doing their own stuff together. And it was really nice. And then every Sunday we have a ladies voice chat. And that's the woman focused part, one of the woman focused parts of the server. And then on the other Saturdays, we've decided to add in GM workshops. And so we're starting with factions. Yesterday we just had a Northern Realms workshop where people could come in and talk to high-level Northern Realms players and have them check their deck lists and get feedback about how they've been doing on ranked, ask questions about how to play against certain archetypes, so on and so forth. And so those are going to alternate on Saturdays. One Saturday voice chat social, one Saturday a workshop, and then so on and so forth.
Yeah, sounds good. A lot of Henselt discussion, I imagine.
Actually, we talked a lot about armor.
Armor, you know what? I always felt like armor was just on the verge of breaking through. Like, I've
really
always loved armor.
Right now.
Mogwai's really popularized this Vincent build that isn't even running the Kidwenny Knights. Like, just Vincent's the only thing that breaks armor, or like, I need to look into it because I've always liked armor. Ever since you could pull the Nightilex / aspirants with Henselt, like a list where that was actually a possibility with Henselt's ability, I've been down for like trying to figure out like the best armor list that could be competitive. I digress.
Well, I have one if you want to take a look.
I would take a look. But one of the things you do is mentoring and coaching and Thrilling. You were recently involved with a tournament called Trial of the Grasses. Now,
I was.
This was expected to be like a broadcasted event, but it ended up going up behind the scenes, and I think it's going to go to YouTube, just kind of based on some technical and some technical difficulties and with the final games that occurred. And we won't spoil what happened there if it ever does go up on YouTube, because I'm sure it would be a great thing. But basically, it was a team of players that were under the tutelage of a single coach, and then those teams would go off fight against other teams. Thrilling, how many teams were involved, and how was the experience?
Oh gosh, I don't know off the top of my head how many teams were involved, but I want to say like maybe, so basically there were schools. So we had like School of the Wolf, School of the Bear, School of the Cat, and I think each of those had about 5 teams. So the first 2 weekends were round robins, and you played everyone on your team, and then the top 2 teams from each school progressed, and then eventually the tournament was completed that way. But I really, really liked playing in Trial of the Grasses. I played in like one tournament solo before. I think it was like Gwent Mania or something. But I'd never actually played Gwent collaboratively before, so this was a new thing for me. And it was a lot of fun. I actually played with Gulax too, and my coach is Anivia Please, who is one of a very active mentor in Lodge of Sorceresses, and I'm really happy to say that we still keep our group chat open. Like, I talk to them every day still, and it was just such a good experience to be able to kind of, at a time where my faith was failing in Gwent a little bit, it kind of brought me back up because I was able to team up with these really amazing people, meet some new people, actually become a better player, and just kind of make friends that I still have. So it was a really great experience. I loved it.
Gulax is awesome. I met him at the Wild Hunt as well.
Oh yeah, he's great too. And he's a commando. I knew him from McBeard's chat, so it was really cool to get to know someone in the Commander's Horn community better as well. So it kind of had a bunch of pros for me, and it was just an all around really great thing and fun thing to participate in.
Yeah, I mean, you say in a time when maybe your faith in Gwent was low, it helped bring you back there, and I think that that Wild Hunt did that for me as well too. Not that it was like my faith was really low, but like when we got to Philly and we started talking about Gwent and met like Lock-In, and like I was like fired up. Like I needed to play. And I feel like I'm still kind of riding that wave going into Open right now. It's a good feeling. Because I feel like the game has smoothed out a little bit, I think, after the bumpiness of Midwinter. Yeah, Nivea, please. He's a good Canadian boy as well. So he lives. I think
Good
he lives.
Canadian boy.
He lives in Toronto, I believe. He's probably not that far. He's probably like my neighbor. For all
I think
know.
I think he mentioned that actually, but yes, he's a good Canadian boy.
He always asks me like, I think like we go to the same restaurants. He's always asking me like, like questions like he's always like telling me like where he went to eat in Toronto, and I'm like, yeah, I know that place. So anyway, I don't know Anivia like too personally, but he does come by the chat and we talk about food in Toronto sometimes. But also a good player as well, and that's cool that he's a very active mentor. You talked about mentoring already, Ammers, but generally, like, have you had any like good success stories from anybody? Like, what's like the biggest success story from one of the mentees, perhaps?
Oh gosh. We've had everyone who's had some successful mentoring has gained several ranks. One of the best ones was Andriana, who is Andriana, sorry. She's from the 4th row, and she has a mentee named Delta who's gained several ranks. And I think their biggest success there was actually helping Delta get over her ladder anxiety, because she would just, she told me that her mentee would just kind of panic on the ranked ladder. Casual, totally fine. Ranked ladder, got to be, calm down, make slower decisions, just talk through all that kind of stuff. And that really helped her. And she really shot up there from where she started. And we've heard a lot of stories like that so far.
Yeah. Not to be confused with Delta, who is frequently on the podcast.
Delta?
Delta's a very,
Different
Delta's a really common screen name. At least in Gwent, there's like 4 or 5 Deltas, I think, that are floating around there. But no, ladder anxiety is a real thing. Even if it's just a little bit, even if it's just like a little bit of dread you might feel before clicking the search for match, like something that might make you not click it. Like, it's not even about in game sometimes, it's even the desire to do it in the first place. So it's a real thing that unfortunately, you have to play rank to rank up. That's not really unfortunate, it's just the way it is. So but you stand, once you realize that you're not really losing anything, you're always gaining experience because you're always becoming a better player. That's part of it, right? Perhaps.
Yeah, I usually just tell people play to improve and play to have fun.
Mm-hmm.
And the ranks will come with that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, we all met at Wild Hunt. We all met at the Wild Hunt Philadelphia, and I wanted to know, Thrilling, you were involved in Wild Hunt, and I wanted to know, like, what was that experience like? It was a 14, so if you look at the stream on Nerd Street Gamers, you'll know it was a 14.5-hour stream, and that's just the stream. That's just the part that was live. There was also a bunch of stuff beforehand, and there was also, like, obviously a lot of stuff afterwards. So it was a very, very long day for everybody involved. What was that experience like for you?
I had never been to an esports tournament before or anything of the sort, and adminning one, that was obviously my first experience with that. So I had absolutely no idea what to expect. I think there were a few little hiccups, but overall it went really, really well. It was super rewarding because I had no idea how it was going to turn out, and I think it turned out absolutely fantastically, if that's even a thing. Absolutely fantastically. It was stressful at times. I forgot to give you guys deck lists on occasion, and I felt kind of personally bad about that. And then I was like, oh, chill out, calm down. But I think I just remember it was a long day. It was probably a 16-hour day. I don't know, but yeah. Really, really long. I remember Swim coming up to me around 3 p.m. and I didn't I guess I'd never really, I didn't know much about tournament styles, so I didn't know what a Swiss was. And people just kept being like, oh God, I hate Swiss. Oh, Swiss. And I'm like, what is this Swiss thing? Okay, we're just playing matches. And Swim comes up to me at 3 p.m. He's like, are we going to be here till 9? Oh my God, we're going to be here till 9, aren't we? And I'm like, Swim, you're nuts. There's no way we're going to be here till 9. And then fast forward, it's 9 o'clock and we still have 4 more games to cast. And I was just like, we're not going to be here till 9. We're going to be here till 2. But at the end, I was just running on empty. But I just could look around and everyone else was just so tired. But the energy there was so good. And there's just kind of this feel of Gwent love and electricity in the air that kept everyone going. So at no time, it was a long day. Yeah, I was super tired, stressful. And I learned a lot of stuff, but I wouldn't change it for anything. It was such an awesome experience.
Yeah, the spectator area was still totally full
Yeah.
by the time we were done. And I see, I didn't compete because we didn't come out until later in the day. Uh, but I was there the whole time, and it was really great. I met like everybody. Everyone was really friendly. There were no issues. I did some tournament organizing for my student org video game club thing at Ohio State for a while, and so we put on tournaments there. And so coming from that background, seeing this, you guys did handle it really well. It looked really good. It was well organized. I wish you guys had a second day for it because I know
Yeah,
that
we're
was really
we're
rough.
for
We
sure
wish
doing
that
2 days
too.
next time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's happening.
but it was great, and the energy was great, and people were like anytime like light cavalry, what are they called now? Just Dune Banner would come out,
Aye, aye,
everyone would
sir.
go,
I
aye,
think
aye,
is the name
sir.
is the name of the
Aye,
card.
aye, sir, like in chorus, everyone.
Yeah.
Or Shoop, people like, Shoop! Shoop!
Yeah.
Oh yeah, shoot for the tournament.
When Shoop made his first appearance and like the room just went up in applause. That was great.
Yeah.
Such a good moment.
Somebody's
That's
got to
fun.
bring Shoop to a tournament, like a Gwent Open. Like that needs to be a thing where it's like whispers in the crowd, like, "Did you hear? Did you hear? X person brought a Shoop deck. Whoa, who brought the Shoop deck?" And then Shoop finally makes an appearance, and then Charm goes off. That would have otherwise a game that would have been lost becomes won, and everybody hates RNG again. It's probably how that would go down. But yeah, so yeah, you both got a little bit of screen time as well. You got to hang out with the illustrious host Flake on the chair to fill some time while we waited for some of the Swiss rounds to complete. And how was that, being kind of behind the scenes but also on the camera as well?
I was super nervous
Yeah,
going
a
on
little bit.
camera.
Same. I was like, okay, I stream, but like it's not when it's your stream, it's fine because you can just do just do whatever you want. But then when you're like actually going on camera for something else that is not just like for personal reasons, I'm like, okay, there's 2,000 people watching. It's casual.
Yeah, I streamed, but not in front of that many people.
Yeah, right.
Maybe 200, but not over 1,000. So that's kind of unnerving. But Flake is awesome. Flake
Yeah.
is so cool.
Yeah.
He's so nice. The off screen too. He just comes over and chats with you. He's so friendly. Great host. Oh my gosh. Me and my
Yeah.
boyfriend both have a crush on him.
Tell him that. I've known Flake for a while now, and it's really good to see him kind of find a lot of joy in being involved in the community and having like the opportunities to do stuff like that because he's a hell of a dude. So that's just been awesome for me. And for him, I'm sure. Obviously, it's great for all of us that we all get to meet each other at these cool events. So generally, I just, I hope that we're looking forward one day or perhaps 2 days from one day to be part of an event like that again. Perhaps in Philadelphia again, perhaps somewhere else. We don't know. I know that.
Eric Street said that they're opening up a venue in the DC Arlington area.
Really? Oh, that's
Yes.
pretty cool.
So that might be, I think they might have that up in a year or two, they said.
I was actually surprised to know that there were a number of different locations because Nerd Street is really North 3rd Street, and North 3rd Street is where the venue is located. So when you look on a map, it actually says Nerd
good
Street.
one.
So I thought
I
that was
didn't
the
get
only. So I thought that was the only venue. So when I heard it was like spreading across America, I'm like, oh, that's good. That's good for esports. It's good that they like Gwent, and this is good for them. I like the scale that they're used to bringing in. Apparently, Gwent was very good. So it's good. I mean, hopefully we get to do it again. Yeah, it's really good to be part of these community events. And any closing statements about the Gwent community for this section from you, Ammers?
Yeah, actually, I never answered the question earlier where you said how did the lodge get started?
Oh,
I don't
yeah.
think I ever actually answered that.
Yeah.
Did you want to revisit that?
Please, yeah, no, please. It's
Okay,
definitely
so
what
I actually
wanted
have an
to-
Excel. I have an Excel spreadsheet that I use to kind of track what I'm doing with the community. I take it very seriously. Like, this isn't the kind of thing where it pops up 1 month and then a couple months later it just kind of fizzles out and it goes away. No, this is very serious to me. And so it was on the, let's see here, the 14th of February, I made a Reddit post to see if there was any interest for a female Gwent group, and Reddit hated it.
The infamous
Oh,
Reddit
boy.
post.
The infamous Reddit post on Valentine's Day.
Oh, they did not like that at all.
No.
I was like, okay, all right, because some of the things I had in mind were the tutoring program, and people were interested in that. They were like, I'd like to see a tutoring program, but I think the nicer comments were like, segregation's probably a bad idea. And I was like, you know what, that's a good point. So that's why I made it woman-focused instead. So from what I've seen statistically on Reddit statistics, and I think Jagger has mentioned like YouTube statistics have about 3% female demographic for Gwent. our server has about 35%. So that's better by like, a factor of 10 or so.
Mhm.
And what did happen was I got a lot of PMs after that initial post saying, hey, I would love to join a group like that, but I really don't want to make a comment because I don't want to be a target. And that told me all I needed to know. And I got a lot of those. And so the very next day I made the group. I got some people who had initially been interested on that post, including Kupor, who is known for his meme posts on the subreddit. You may have seen his memes. And by, let's see, the 16th and 17th of February, I was doing some community reach outs to streamers, see if anyone was interested in getting involved. And then I made the community announcement on the 17th, and that blew up. It's the only post I've ever seen that got Reddit gold on the Gwent subreddit, which surprised me.
Nice.
2 of them, in fact. And then I just did private invites from that, and it just blew up.
Well, I mean, it's unfortunate that there is a negative shade to that experience for everybody, but generally, though, when it comes to video game community stuff, I have found lately that it's been like almost every stance of any kind is so polarizing, and it's so volatile on the internet, and I feel like in order to get things done, you kind of have to wade into the swamp a little bit. So.
Yeah, and there was some controversy, which I won't get into too deeply, but there were some weird comments, like one comparing the group to the KKK, which blew my mind.
Why wouldn't you do something like that, guys?
Yeah,
Jeez.
and other ones that were accusing me of being misandrist, and I was like, oh, yes, I hate men. Did you know I hate men? The internet tells me I hate men.
Yeah.
Does your boyfriend know that? That's...
But Bertha chimed in, and it was actually Petrify that ended up at the top of the comments with like, guys, chill. Like, this is only good for the growth of the community, and like, anyone's welcome. It's just to focus on women. So, yeah. It's just really nice. One of the questions that I got a lot was, why does gender matter in a game where you can't see gender and like it's just anonymous usernames? Well, it doesn't in the game, but it does in a social community. Because it's really nice when you get invited to the server as a girl and you look on the sidebar and you see the sorceress category with like 30 people online, and it's like, oh, sweet, other girls play this game. There's other girls I can play with. Cool. And it's just a nice sense of pride and solidarity.
As a girl too, when I saw this, I was really excited because I mean, I'm in a bunch of Gwent Discords. I probably am the most active in the Commander's Run Discord, but just like sometimes being a girl, maybe I want to go and post like about my day. Maybe I'm just not having a good day and I want to like go someplace and like bitch about it. And sometimes like in Discords that are predominantly male, there can be, I mean, not backlash, not saying I wouldn't feel comfortable posting something like that in Commander's Horn, but like, I don't know, it just feels nice to have like an actual safe place as a woman to go and just like post some stuff, you know, especially with ladies who love Gwent as much as me. So,
I mean, it's good because I think that we all just want to be joined by common, like, you know, we want to be like-minded, right? So common interests, and like-minded people tend to have some of the best conversations. And there's a lot of different facets to this. I mean, we're all like-minded in that we all like Gwent, but it's just not quite the same, and you can't get the same sort of point of view everywhere. So it's great. I think it's great that like everybody has this. I mean, how do you feel about the term safe space, Ammers?
I do not like it because it has, I mean, it is you can describe it as a safe space, but I don't want the group associated with radical SJW Tumblr nonsense because I hate that. I hate all of that. And we are not like that. We're not one of those like easily offended, easily triggered radical communities. That's just not what it is at all. It's just a bunch of people getting together, playing Gwent, learning the game together, being a bit more social than you might expect from your typical Gwent Discord. And it's a very kind of loving community. People have really gotten to know each other. It's just really cool. It's a really cool environment. I don't know how else to describe it.
Right on. All right, well, that's...
yeah, it is meant to be... You're supposed to be able to be yourself at our server. That's our motto. With the Lodge, you can be yourself. Be yourself here.
It's good. It's good. It's a great thing that you have done. Everybody at the Lodge of Sorceresses, at every sorceress that is part of it, Thrilling is included in that list, of course. and it's tough. Like, I want to talk about all my favorite female Gwent players and streamers, but I'm so scared to leave anybody out. Let's just say that there's a lot of great names involved. There's a lot of cool people that you can meet there as well that you may not otherwise know. And there's a lot of mainstays in the Gwent community that you might know from Gwent Public Discord or for Commander's Horn or whatever. Like, it seems like it's such a different conversation every time I look by. So it's a great community. Congrats to Ammers to getting that off the ground, and thanks for coming on the show to talk about it with us today. But
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Well, I mean, one last thing I'd like to ask you, generally, since we are talking on a Gwent podcast, is I do want to know from both of you what deck you've been playing the most right now and how you feel about the ladder or arena, if that you've been playing more of, just so we can get some nitty gritty Gwent talk in here for sure.
Oh, yes.
So, Ammers, go for it.
Oh, I think Thrilling should go first. I just talked a bunch.
Right.
Okay. I've been playing Moonlight a lot on the ladder. I've been playing, let's see, I was playing a Moonlight Swarm variant with Elder, and I got a chance to try out the deck you posted yesterday, I think it was, McBeard, with Elder and Moonlight. Not too much, but Elder is kind of surprising me. He always has a target because there's always those really high value bronze that you just want to drain out the units, like brigades, Impera brigades, and all the units that buffs like Farseers, smugglers. But yeah, I've been playing Moonlight. I've noticed a lot of Alchemy Nilfgaard on the ladder, and I've actually really?
No way.
Yes, literally. Oh, okay. I was like, wait, but literally every game I played yesterday was Alchemy Nilfgaard. It's pretty much like Alchemy Nilfgaard. And that's all I've really been seeing. I finally got to do Arena for the first time the other night, and that was a lot of fun. I was very confused, but as a person who likes to play Scoia'tael and monsters and not much else, it's really cool to actually learn what the other cards do, because I should probably do that anyway if I want to play ranked. But yeah, fun experience all around. Gwent times are good right now.
Right.
I think I had one really weird glitch the other night, but I don't remember what it is. But that's all. Pretty happy.
I had a weird Moonlight glitch where I moved my opponent's slave driver to an alpha werewolf, and I moved it into the opponent's row when I had Moonlight on my opposing siege row or something, and it triggered the little wolves on his side. There's a clip of it on there's a clip of it on my channel, but it seemed like it was a bug from before. But I guess alpha werewolf is only just getting popular lately, I think.
It used to bug when they first released the card and you put Moonlight on it. It used to have the bug where it spawned wolves on the opposite side of the board, and I would get so tilted. I'm like, no, those are my wolves. I need them for Trisput. Please give them back.
No, there's still bugs with alpha werewolf specifically, and I don't know if it has to do with slave driver making it or if it has to do with what, but you can still run into them, and I don't know if it's an alchemy only matchup, but it involved me moving a alpha werewolf on my opponent's side of the board while I had Moonlight active on my board. So be careful.
It essentially triggered from your side.
Isn't werewolf supposed to be untargetable?
This is alpha werewolf. So
yeah,
alpha werewolf
is fine.
Oh, alpha werewolf.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this is the one that also the alpha werewolf, when you clear Moonlight and reapply it, the alpha werewolf will proc again, whereas the werewolf standard doesn't proc again. And they had issues with the werewolf also doing the same thing, where it would proc on your opponent's side of the board. So there is something going on with that. I've been playing a lot of Moonlight too. That's why I know this stuff.
It's really fun. I'm enjoying it.
No, Moonlight's great. I've tried Dagon. I've tried Elder. I've of course played. Shout out to Ocean Mud in the chat. I have played Aridin Moonlight as well. Frost Nova stuff. So it's kind of like it was slept on a little bit. I don't know how competitive it is, but it's pretty good. Ammers, what about you? What have you been playing on the ladder?
I have been playing... Oh, by the way, I would love to see some more support for the Moonlight archetype because I think it's freaking awesome, and the art for it, for the weather effects, are
so good.
Yeah.
I've been playing Armor Nova Radovid.
Nice.
Mostly. It's really good against Alchemy. I have a 65% win rate I'm at around the top 2K right now, which I guess isn't saying that much because we're only halfway through the season, but I tend to play at the higher levels. So I have a pretty good one right now with that, and I'm going to be trying a Vincent variation soon that I heard was pretty good. I really like Northern Realms, and I also really like Skellige when I'm not feeling Northern Realms. The other day, playing against Alchemy, they played Black Blood, got an Osril, and ate my 18-point greatsword out of my graveyard, and I was like,
Ugh.
And I mentioned it in voice chat, and everyone goes, "Create is fine."
I hate when
Kind of one of
people
those
just roll the
things. Whenever
answer.
something like that happens, everyone in voice chat goes, "Create is fine."
Mhm. Yeah, Black Blood was. I liked Black Blood from the very start for Alchemy and Elfguard because you can do so much. Like, there's so many options that are interesting. Like, if you play a lot of your slave drivers, you have a bunch of extra units in your graveyard, so that means Morntard is usually like an 18, 19 point play. It's like little things like that. Like you can hit so many things that are good in that selection that it's worth actually the slot for the Alchemy. But one thing I do like about Moonlight is that it's actually a decent matchup against Alchemy. I don't know about if you have a
Really?
ghoul in your deck, maybe not.
Yeah, I like it because like with slave drivers, take your wolves and they don't really do anything.
Yeah, like the best thing you could take is the problem that I had is there are some matchups where they make a bunch of alpha werewolves, and then when they resurrect their slave drivers, they can make the ghouls to eat the werewolves. And I'm like, no, you're not supposed to want to use the ghouls. You're supposed to, if you want to res your witchers, don't do that. So I mean that's too bad. But if you run a version like if you're in the Dagon version that substitutes maybe a single ghoul for a foglet, the matchup's even better there because then they don't actually have ways to really use that strategy against you. So
And then they grab the foglet and you're like,
yeah, they have a choice between foglet, siren, or werewolf. Yeah, they can't. They don't have anything they can
You
make.
have several choices. They are all bad.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
full test is good for that too.
Same thing with
sometimes.
consume.
Yeah, give them a bunch of trash.
Or the
cans.
no units deck versus the slave drivers. They just play a slave driver, get nothing, and forfeit. You're like,
Yeah.
okay, great.
Absolutely. Oh man, that's true. I mean, so I've been playing Moonlight as well, so that's and I've played like some Spellitel here and there just to try to see where it's at. I think maybe either I need to be better at it or it's not quite good. Anything engine based right now is just getting cut down by Alchemy so hard. So beware of Alchemy out there, my friends.
I personally think Viper Witches are a little overpowered. Like 10-point removal on a 5-point card. I mean, the card is fine, but I think a 10-point removal is like really strong. It's too much.
It does force you to put a lot of non-unit cards in your deck though, and you can get bricked because of that.
I mean, they've got it working so well now. I think
Yeah.
that's the thing.
Yeah.
Alchemy is like it doesn't seem like it's a concession they have to make. It's just how their awesome deck works. And I agree that it's it's interesting how we come out of a dwarf meta where the dwarves were overtuned and tempo was king and engines didn't work very well and control definitely didn't work very well because it didn't matter what you tried to control. For the dwarves, they would just stomp all over you. And now with Alchemy being very strong, the control is king, which makes engines suffer even worse, and tempo isn't enough because they get so much tempo from their control cards as well. So finding ways to mess with them, like Moonlight offers an uninteractable engine on the board where unless they can weather over your row, they can't kill all the engines because all your cards are engines now, especially the werewolf, which is untargetable. So it's a nice matchup for Alchemy. I think that's why I'm feeling it right now.
Caretaker's also. Did you put Caretaker in your deck, McBeard? I forget.
No, I was running. My extra gold was Muzzle for a while, and then it was I forget, right? Because it's
I put Caretaker in, and Caretaker is really fun versus Alchemy because you can just take what you think they're gonna res. Like you can grab a novice, you can grab another Witcher, so they can't like use it again against you. It's pretty versatile, especially when you're dealing with the ointment that just constantly is picking up like slave drivers, meta or novices, etc.
yeah, Caretaker's
like it.
pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like it when they steal my scouts because then you're like, slave driver, scout, slave driver, scout, slave driver, and then into something else, and it's just this huge chain of everything, and they thin everything out of their deck, and
You're talking about
It's
Reaver
rough.
Scouts, right? For Northern Realms?
what?
Reaver Scouts?
Reaver Scouts?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, because
Scouts.
they can't find a good pick, right? They're like Tormented Mage or Reaver Scout. Oh, I'll take another
Yeah.
chance with the Slave Driver with the Reaver Scout. Tormented Mage again, and like some other thing I can't use, like a Redanian Elite. So, yeah, I mean it's for sure. It's
It's a good time.
I think that there's a lot. I think that a lot of decks. I think that Wild Hunt Philadelphia, even though it's kind of in the background now, it showed that there were a lot of decks out there for this meta that haven't been showcased in a while because the last Gwent Open was in January, and a lot of the other tournament stuff like Trial of the Grasses and Gwenelman's Legacy Open. This stuff doesn't have like the same level, like the same stage, so people maybe don't even know. And it's kind of like a quiet, kind of dark period. So Gwent Open is going to be coming out this weekend coming up. Obviously, it's going to be the level of play you have to you can come to expect. But I think that the things that people are going to bring can be. I always say this, and I'm usually right. It's going to be pretty varied. And I'm interested to see like what flavor of Henselt do people bring? Villain Trettenworth or Baron? What flavor of Nilfgaard? Well, I think Alchemy is probably the Nilfgaard pick now these days after the Enforcer change, which we didn't really talk about, but Enforcers.
It is nice to see a Nilfgaard deck that's dominant, that's not spies for once.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but even that kind of sentiment will probably wear thin because I think that
I'm already sick of it.
what people really want is to see Nilfgaard and say, oh, okay, it's going to be one of maybe 4 different decks. And I can play one of these 4 different decks and I can do well. What's bad is when it's like there's one good deck for a faction or one like dominant deck for the faction. And while I think that there's still some spy variants that can do, really good stuff, I also think that it's just not standing up to Alchemy. Alchemy is huge right now. And Reveal is just kind of a ladder thing. You're not going to see that unless somebody figures something out. I don't think it's going to be in tournaments. So,
Watching the Alchemy Mirror in tournaments is the most hilarious clown fiesta.
Yeah, that's really fun.
Yeah, at least you can actually go play by play for that one because it's like, all right, here comes the slave driver. Let's see. Okay. It's going to be slave driver into Vico into slave driver into Vico into slave driver into slave driver.
Chains.
It's going to be great to cast those again. I think that's maybe the least I'm looking forward to is Alchemy Mirrors, but seeing if Alchemy gets targeted or if it gets banned, that's going to be a story as well. So I think that it's not hyper dominant right now. I wonder if it's when I say it's not hyper dominant, I mean to say that I don't know if Alchemy is going to be ban worthy or if people are just going to be maybe targeting it instead. I think you can go either way, but maybe it's going to get banned. Probably going to get banned. We'll see. Cool. So I would love to know what the chat has to say. Have any questions for Ammers or Thrilling? Talk about what you're playing in Gwent right now. Talk about your questions or concerns. Let us know. Tag me at McBeard, at McBearded, sorry. And we can get to some questions from the community and get some questions answered for you right after this. All right. Once again, we are supported by our commandos, our patrons at patreon.com/commandershorn. Thanks once again for keeping the podcast ad-free and making sure that we can come back week after week for the best content that we can make. Questions from the chat. We're going to see what's going on here. Actually, there was a question in chat about if the streaming schedule for both of you, and I know that I would ask this at the end of the stream, but both of you do stream as well, right? You both have communities that you've built around your gaming experience, your Gwent experience. Oh, I didn't direct it. Sorry.
Oh.
I actually don't.
I thought you did. I went and I followed you on Twitch because you had some videos.
Oh, okay.
I streamed like a year and a half ago while I was climbing to Legend in Hearthstone, and I did that, and then I never streamed again because it made gaming feel like a chore.
Ah,
yeah,
that's fair.
I stream occasionally, and because I love gaming and I love streaming, but I like to keep streaming to a minimum because I don't want it to ever feel like a chore. So I usually stream on Friday nights. Saturday days or Sundays is when you can probably catch me on Twitch, twitch.tv/thrilling. And I have a question for both of you guys, actually, if I may ask. I would like to know what each of your favorite cards are out of the new cards they released for Arena, all the new golds.
I was actually going to ask this question, so this is perfect.
Oh, okay. Well, great.
I'm gonna say I think my favorite card now that I've played with most of them. I thought it was going to be Dandelion Poet, but it's actually Triss. Yeah. It's actually Triss Telekinesis, because Triss Telekinesis, she has a place in any deck that runs a bronze card. I think any bronze special card, and it's in matchups like against alchemy where things get interesting, where you can like, if you're playing like when I was playing Monsters Moonlight with Triss Telekinesis, I could actually ointment my ghoul and I could play the ghoul again, or like there's weird interactions with that. But generally Triss into reconnaissance is so good. It feels it's just running even a single reconnaissance in a deck and running Triss is very, very good. Running like Spellettel and getting that extra spell, getting that extra Moonlight and Moonlight sometimes, getting the extra Ale and Alchemy sometimes. It just turns out that that card is just really, really good. And for a create card, very balanced and very accepted and very controllable. And I think that card is just great. And the artwork is fantastic. Shout outs to Lorenzo.
Premium.
Yeah.
Oh, I got premium.
Oh,
that card
so
for
good.
Sure.
Oh,
I need the
Absolutely.
premium.
Ammers, what about you?
I really like the new Ceres. I wish it was better and more playable. I love the art on it, and I like the mechanic. I think it needs like 3 armor or something that makes it not so. For a gold that has a decent effect, I don't think it's as sticky as it should be. Because I can't really think of things that you'd want to discard that could be brought back by her that are like big enough to be worth it, that would also be in your hand at the right time. Anyway, that's not the point. The point is I love the way the card looks. I think it's gorgeous. I really like Ceres. And I also really like Ihrawahawk.
Oh yeah, I always forget
Fox.
about him.
They call
I
him
need to
Fox.
try
The
and know.
unicorn, the last unicorn.
Yeah.
I've been trying to run that Calviet variant that has what's his face that
Skellen?
puts your card at the top of the deck. Forget his name.
Yeah, Stefan
Skellen.
Skellen.
Thank you, Stefan Skellen. Yes. Yeah, the art on that card is really pretty, and I like unicorns because I'm not going to explain why, but
Who doesn't like
Oh, no.
unicorns? Let's be honest. I mean, really.
There is an awesome hand buff deck you can play with Scoia'tael that runs a Huarahuax. I'm gonna Iharahua.
I'm gonna get on that.
It's it had to do with using Francesca to give it 3, and then you use Royal Decree later to give it the last 2 it needs, so it goes off when you play it. And I played it one game on fight night, and I was able to do it. It didn't seem that hard. It was the only game I've ever played with the deck, so I'm not advocating its strength level, but I will say that it seemed like when everybody was like, "Oh, Stefan Skellen's so OP," it was cool to see that there are other ways, because it needs to be exactly 5. You need to be able to buff it exactly by 5 before it's played, or
I
I should say,
discovered that myself last night.
yeah, like 2
When it
Hawker
didn't
supports
work.
don't do it.
The hard way.
Yeah. 2 Hawker supports don't do it, and like 2, like you can't just, like a Dragoon could overbuff it or something like that. So being able to surgically buff it like that is actually an interesting kind of puzzle that you can assemble. But when you do assemble it, it's super strong card. So I think that the Francesca variant might be, I might want to play with that a little bit more, because it didn't seem that hard. Francesca gets the card, you get to mulligan every round. All you need is Royal Decree. So if you have a Royal Decree, you can do it for sure. If you have a Hawker support, you can do it for sure, because then Francesca gets you Royal Decree. So if that's your win condition, it didn't seem that bad. So
I think they do need to give it the foul ale treatment, though, where it targets the highest units on the board.
I think its power level. I think its power level makes it almost justified that it's random, because, I mean, it is hard. It's a good question. I mean, I don't know what you guys think of it in the chat, but it is a hard condition to meet, in that only some factions can do it like reliably. But when you meet that condition, it can be like 20. What is it? 20. It's 21, 28 points potentially, right? 28 points when it comes
Yeah,
down
it
at
requires
7.
so much setup.
It does. But if you were to get maximum value from it all the time, would it make it too good? I don't know. Actually, I don't know if I can put it there. I need to play with the card a little bit more, because you're playing it at the end of a long round, so at least there's 3 big units on the board. But if you play it in a short round, it's not good. So we'll see. I'll probably play it maybe on Monday on the stream to give it a shot. What else is going on in chat, my friends? Bobby Dazzler with the question: should Nilfgaard be nerfed, or should other archetypes be boosted? Nova Shoop are rarely run in Nilfgaard. It's indicative of well-designed archetypes IMO. I don't know about the Nova Shoop stuff, because I know you're saying that Nova and Shoop can help decks succeed where they otherwise would fail. I think that Nilfgaard was in a good spot when Spies and like Reveal was a legitimate ladder deck. Spies and Alchemy were up on par, and I've enjoyed Slave Infantry personally. I mean, for a ladder deck, I've honestly had fine experiences with it. But I think that with Spies going down, it just made Alchemy that much more appealing. So it kind of just narrowed the pyramid a little bit and just made it a little bit sharper on top. But I think that at one point I was saying Nilfgaard was like the gold standard. All factions should like have 4 decks that you can just take in and do your best with, and you could probably get, you know, at least rank 20 with them all. I still think you could, though. I don't know if you guys agree or disagree that Nilfgaard, in all of its variations, is still rank 20 material. What do you think, Ammers?
So that was a really long string of words leading up to that question. Sorry.
It was.
Rephrase that for me. That was, do we still want to see other factions balance the same way Nilfgaard is?
Yeah, do you think Nilfgaard is overpowered, or do you think that their alchemy is in a good spot and other decks power?
It might be a little overtuned.
Yeah.
They could probably take the Viper Witchers down to like 3. For a little bit of tuning. I sometimes I see them get bricked by pulling an ointment when they don't have anything to res yet in round 1, so I think that kind of offsets it, and you just sort of have to know how to play against it. I don't know. I don't have a lot of problems with it just because I play a counter to it, so I'm not the best person to ask probably because I'm biased that way.
It's good that there's counters out there, though. I think that the problem with Viper Witches is that they suppress. It suppresses the meta and how it can actually develop, as far as like if you want to play any card that needs presence, like if you want to play Hawker Smuggler, Cadwini Siege Support, Farseers, like insert engine card here. You just can't, because if you're up against Alchemy, they will have the answer, and they'll have 6 of those answers potentially over the course of the game. So if you bring them down to 3, I don't even know if it would deter. Novices maybe could get hit by a point, I think maybe, but it's tough when you have an ability that is so, even at 0 it can hit 10, right? Because originally they were cards that had a base of 3 damage, and that's wild to think of. But
they could make ointment have the target become doomed after use, like restore. That might help.
Maybe they could say different instances of alchemy. So if you put 3 Mahaka males in, it only counts for 1.
That would be good. I honestly think that the main thing with that deck is it has such strong removal potential as well as point generating potential. So you kind of have like a double-edged sword there. Like we have decks that are focused on control or focused on generating points, like dwarfs versus like no units or something. And this alchemy deck can do both, which is why it's so threatening and so good.
Yeah. And the thing about a really, really good deck like alchemy is that you can start to pepper in the answers you have to your counters over time. Like people find further ways to break those decks. So like dwarves became a strong deck to like a thoroughly like, I can take on all comers because I can find spots for all the things that could potentially beat me and then still beat you kind of situation. So alchemy, the longer it stays in a strong state and more people start to figure it out, the more the alchemy players, you have to fight back against that wave of countering. So if alchemy can weather that, then it's too strong. If it can't, then maybe it's okay. But I do like Moonlight being an answer for sure. Silex96 asking, what's one card that needs a buff the most? For me, I'm going to say maybe King of Beggars, because it's probably one of the most underplayed cards that hasn't changed in such a long time. And I'm not going to suggest how it needs to be changed, but I just feel like King of Beggars used to be like the face of Gwent in closed beta. He had a totally different ability. He was like a marching orders with a body on it, and he was so damn strong, but so good. Like it wasn't like he was like a general, just a general card that so many decks could make use of. And it was just everywhere. The play rate for that card was so high. But I miss King of Beggars, and I'd like to see a buff or a change so he kind of comes back. Because who do I spy? I miss that voice line. What about you, Ammers?
I'd like to see some golds that didn't get caught up to the gold immunity change get buffed to be usable, like Triss Butterfly.
I think she's usable.
I think she's still usable.
I think it's like she gets enough value on the board that she's like Imler or Sabbath, kind of like, if you don't answer it, it's a big problem.
Yeah.
Maybe something like Priscilla, golds that you don't really see much.
Yeah, Priscilla was cooler before they just kind of front loaded all of her power and capped
Yeah.
it. But I mean, she still has 18 points. Like it's just a very kind of. It's funny because in closed beta, John Natalis had a similar ability where he just buffed 3 units and that's all he did, and he was the only card that really did that. And Priscilla is kind of taking that sort of that place, like that kind of morale boost sort of card. And for some reason, there's just no real reception to player. Northern Realms doesn't have the greatest golds either, but I think it's because people think, if I'm not getting 20 from it, it's not worth it, or if I'm not getting like a great amount of utility from it, it's not worth it. But Priscilla is not. I mean, if you're looking at full test swarm build, like maybe she could be in that build. I don't know. I should try her out.
Maybe.
I missed the Easter egg too. She's jamming out at the rave.
Yeah.
It's awesome. Thrilling. Did you answer?
No, I didn't. I don't know if I have a particular gold that I want to see buffed or like any particular card, but I would like to see some more tools for movement because or movement scoia'tael. I think they were really strong, but I think they're just missing like one thing that can generate enough points to make it an actual viable deck because I find it usually falls short of just the score, but it's really, really fun to play. Nivellen was cool when he came out and obviously a good tool for movement, but I don't think it's enough. So I would love to see something that makes that archetype viable again on the ladder.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Cool. The last one we're going to address here from the chat here, Schrodinger's Bamboozle is saying, have you ever daydreamed of new mechanics you'd like to see in game? Yeah, actually I have. But it's more, not so much new mechanics, but more about, things that I think could, enhance mechanics that are already out there. Like decks that I like to play that I feel like need more love, like maybe like swap or something like that. But I've always actually had a fun idea of, it would be great if there was a card like a Houndmaster that actually released the hounds as disloyal dogs or hounds or beasts on your opponent's side of the board that would just jump around and like damage or do stuff to opposing cards and you couldn't do anything about it. Like they just kind of infest your side of the board. Very much like Raw Tosser, so probably not that interesting, but I just kind of like the idea of releasing the hounds. I guess it's maybe the Hearthstone player in me. But like it's just kind of like that idea of like polluting your opponent's side of the board with stuff that they really don't want on it, or polluting your opponent's deck with bad draws. Like the Guardian does that as well. So there's stuff that's already in the game that does it. So I don't know if they're really new mechanics. But I am interested in seeing what the Vampire's Drain mechanic or what future Vampire cards come out. Thrilling, I know you're
so excited for that.
You're down for the Vampire stuff.
I'm down for the Vampire stuff.
Ammers, have you thought about any like stuff that could come into Gwent that could be interesting?
I would really like to see cards that do different things based on the row that they're played on.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah,
I don't know.
that'd be a great one.
I'm trying to think of like an example, like some kind of machine where if you play it on the front row, it does one thing, middle row, it does something different, and then the siege row does something else. And I think each faction should have access to things like that.
I would like a whole expansion about that.
Yeah.
I would like
that would be really cool.
Waves and waves of bronze cards that did stuff like
We
that.
need more bronzes in general.
Yeah, I mean, yes, we do.
Please
We absolutely
give us
do.
more bronzes.
We absolutely do. Yeah, I think that like an expansion that was all about rows that I know the community would just like eat it up. They would eat it up. Like it's a talking point. Obviously, remember when rows used to mean something? I remember it. I don't remember it as fondly as other people. I don't like situations where, well, I guess I'm forced to play into the Igni that everybody's running, or I'm forced to play into the weather that only hits a single row. So I'm done from the beginning because they fogged the range row and I only have range cards. So I guess I'm dead because weather was so strong, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So it's not quite as easy as just saying it used to be better, because it didn't used to be better. It used to be different. That's what I think. But a whole expansion based on like, this card gets a buff on this row. This card does a ping on this row. Like little things, like have like super, super basic ones and then have really, really complex golds and stuff like that. I would absolutely love that. And that is not a small design undertaking, but I think that would be so well received. And if that's what the Toussaint expansion or the Vampire expansion or however it's looking is going to be, that's what I want to see. So that would be really, really cool. Even a leader for every faction that did something like that. Give it to me, guys. CDPR, please. All right, that was thanks chat for always being part of the community section. Now that we did
Thrilling,
this
did
live.
you answer?
Oh,
Did I
sorry.
answer?
Oh,
'Cause
yeah,
you
that-
talked about
yours was
vampires,
sorry.
Yeah.
Yours was
Oh,
No,
well,
go
I just
ahead.
agreed. Like, I want the vampire expansion. That just seems really cool.
Stuff that works off Drain
Yeah.
and Toussaint cards. Give me
Drain, I would like to see some like new vampire interactions would be cool, and maybe stuff that works with Elder and I guess Ekimaras like aren't even played now. What do they even do? They drain by like 5, I think.
Yeah, they're just like 11-point cards. They drain by 3
Yeah.
and they're 5. They are 5, so that's
I'm
just
sure
like
there will be an
11
Definitely
Yeah.
want to see some more vampire engines and interaction and synergy with drain abilities. I guess that's what they're trying to introduce with stuff. So
Yeah, like maybe like a vampire that converts an opposing unit to a vampire, and that means something. Like kind of like how like Spy Nilfgaard
that would
has
be so cool,
Infiltrator.
like turning cards or something, or
Yeah,
like
turning cards,
turning your
and-
bronze.
or like something you place on the board that gets stronger with every drain effect added, or that mimics every drain effect added. Like if this vampire drains 3, this thing gets +3. If this vampire drains this, like that could be a pretty insane combo. I don't know if it's too strong, but I don't know. Like it's
Kind of like how
I'm so
Neckers
excited.
work with the consume, but like vampires. So maybe like the card gets buffed every time a unit's drained. Like buff this by something.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's a lot of vampire cards that we've seen art for from like the Salvine Festival. We saw Garcane. We saw like the Bruxa, like the Queen of the Damned or whatever she was called.
Queen of the Night.
What is it? Queen of the Night, the
Yes,
consort, and there's the Alp. There's the Catacan got the Neckarat got renamed, so Catacan is still out there, I guess. So you can still have Catacan. Yeah, really cool stuff. Really excited for new mechanics and new cards, of course, and hopefully we get some new announcements about the future of Gwent at the next Challenger or even sooner. Hey, I don't think anybody would mind more news constantly.
I'd like to see a new faction challenge soon.
Yeah, for sure.
Give me
Get a
some
new border.
borders.
I would like to see a new Squirtle border.
The squirrel
Thank you.
border
Yeah,
that has
oh,
been
that was
leaked.
data.
Oh yeah, I want that one. Since
Yeah.
I didn't get the last one.
I would
Because I'm
love for them to
stupid.
have faction borders for play like games one. That would be good.
I agree. Certainly.
That would be cool, yeah. Outside of faction challenge.
Yeah, just give us more rewards for playing. Like that's
Achievements.
it seems like they have so much. They have like the artist works so hard for this game. So give me more reasons to celebrate that. That's kind of
Yeah.
where I'm at on that.
Yeah, I love collecting them all because I like to like role play my avatar and border with whatever deck I'm playing. So like if I'm playing Dagon, I'll use like my Dagon avatar with the green like dragon hatchling border from season 3 because it all matches.
I was gonna say I've been seeing people around doing a Roche avatar with the Scoia'tael border, which
yeah.
is really funny to me.
Exactly.
I'm sure that's the point.
And everybody will get a Roach avatar as well because it's actually the only avatar reward in this season. It's rank 15. I say everybody, but rank 15 is much more achievable than the rank 21 you needed last time Roach was available. So that should be fun for everybody. And it looks like they're going to be giving more accessibility to borders and avatars in general, which is good.
Yeah,
So
very
that's
good.
more celebration to the artists. Thanks so much for joining us, my friends, in the chat, and of course to Ammers and Thrilling. It's been a great podcast. Ammers, you have your finger up. Is there something you want to
I
address?
just wanted to say thank you because I know I have some of the lodge members listening. So I just want to thank you so much for your support and for getting involved, especially the streamers who have been behind us and supporting us and stuff. I see Ocean Mud in chat. He said some really nice things about us in his streams here and there. So have others. I can't think of them all, but thank you so much. I've been able to do it without you.
Ocean Mud, you're great, and you're going to be in one of these squares one day. I swear. I'm going to get you.
Yeah, he
on
needs
this
to be up
podcast.
here.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Ocean Muds, of course. And thanks to everybody in the chat. I mean, we saw Moonlight in there as well. We saw some other people show up as well. A good crowd here on a Sunday. Ammers, you did talk a lot about where people can find you, but on Twitter or Discord, or you say you don't stream, just generally if people want to get in contact with you, where can people find you when you're doing your thing?
You can reach out to me on Reddit. It's Ammers, AMMERS 10. That's my username on Reddit, or on Discord, it's Ammers, and then the number is 4431. You can also whisper me on Twitch. I might do a little bit of streaming just this week just because of this, and I'll be on Topdeck as well, so I'll have the webcam and mic set up anyway, so why not? But no, I'm not a regular streamer, so reach out to me on other channels.
Cool. and Thrilling.
You can find me on twitch.tv/thrilling. That's where I stream like Friday, Saturdays, whenever I feel like it, basically. And Twitter, my handle is @the_thrilling.
All right. I can be found at McBeardCH on Twitter, McBearded on Twitch, and McBeard on YouTube. Updates on my schedule and my streams and this podcast can be found on Twitter, so I highly encourage you to follow me there because that's usually the first place that I will post any updates about any of those things that I do. I am heading to Gwent Open for the 17th and 18th, so my streaming will be a little on the lighter side, and this podcast will be out for the next week of the 19th. Sorry, the 12th. I get my dates wrong. That's kind of why we're doing this on the Sunday in the first place. On the 12th, the week of the 12th. So that will be this week's podcast. And we'll wrap this up here. Once again, you can find the podcast on Twitter @CommandersHorn, and you can email us at commandershornpodcast@gmail.com. Ammers and Thrilling, once again, thanks so much. And to the chat, thanks so much as well. Until next time, everybody, best of luck on the path.